Hey there, my name is Jasmine Sky, and I'm here today to talk about all of my reading goals of 2021 and 2022. So I am going to react to the video that I filmed last year that was all of my reading goals for 2021. I've decided that I would like to keep track of my reading over the course of the year because in 2020 I don't think I read enough young adult books. I really expanded my horizons when it came to adult science fiction and fantasy. I really read a lot of new and amazing adult novels, but I just did not read as much YA as I should have, considering the fact that for my writing career, I want to publish in YA before I publish in adult. So I need to get better at having at least a more even spread of both YA and adult novels, and I have a lot of YA novels to read. Okay, so as you might have seen if you watched my 2021 favorites and reading stats video, I failed my goal of reading more YA, probably. I didn't track my stats in 2020. So I don't know the percentage of YA versus not YA that I read in 2020. I do know the percentage of YA versus not YA that I read in 2021 graph. So I don't know for sure if the pie chunk of YA is more or less than what it would have been in 2020. However, this is less than what I wanted, which was like a 50-50 split. So yeah, I did not succeed in that goal. Hoping to read more YA in 2022, because if you watched my most anticipated books of the year videos, I had a most anticipated middle grade books of the year, there was 12 middle grade, and then I had 36 most anticipated YA, and then 12 most anticipated adults, except for I realized I made a mistake, and one of the books I put on the YA list is actually an adult book. So, but either way, YA is my biggest chunk of most anticipated, unlike last year where I think I had more most anticipated adult than YA, which I'm going to talk about here in the video in a second. So hopefully I will read even more YA in 2022. But the other big thing that I want to do in 2021 is really get through my bookshelf. I recently counted all the books on my bookshelf and counted how many I had read and how many I have not read, and I am sitting at a very sad 48% read. So my main goal when it comes to reading in 2021 is to get that number up to closer to a third or even 3/4 of the books on my bookshelf read. Let's see, I did track this. This is a stat that I did not talk about in my stats and graphs video that I just posted a week or so ago, but I did track it. I did all of the math. I counted before I left for my mom's house. I counted every single book on my bookshelf, what I had read and what I had not read, and my stats are 55%. So better than what they were when I made this goal, but not 66%, which was my goal. However, I'm going to caveat the goal that I gave last year, which is that when I made that goal, I didn't actually realize the way my reading works, or at least the way my bookshelf works, which is that a lot of times, things that I physically have on my bookshelf, there's only a finite amount of space on my bookshelf, and I buy a lot of books. So I cycle through my bookshelf pretty regularly. So if I read a book and I don't love it, I don't keep it. I usually donate it. So only a small percentage of the books I read actually stay on my bookshelf, which means the majority of the books on my bookshelf are books that I haven't read yet. So that percentage is never going to be very high. In fact, the 55% that I counted includes a stack of like 30 books that I have waiting that I'm going to go donate. So once I take those away, that percentage is going to go way down again because I only have a finite amount of room on my bookshelf. And that's just the way my bookshelf works. So I'm actually not as upset about this number as I used to be because I've realized the way that I cycle through my books, and that's just what I like to do. Quickly go through my most anticipated YA and adult books of 2021, just to give you a taste of what I hope to read this coming year in the new releases category. For YA, number 1, Bedazzled by Ryan LaSala. This comes out, actually it might already be out by the time this video is up, on January 5th. This is a queer YA rom-com about a competitive cosplay competition, which for those of you who know, I am a cosplayer and I am just, I'm so into that concept. I have not actually read Bedazzled yet. I own it, I want to read it, but I haven't done any cosplaying. I didn't do any cosplaying in 2021 because pandemic, and I didn't really want to read it and get really sad about not going to any conventions in 2021. So basically, as soon as I get to the point where I feel comfortable going to conventions again, / my friend group is ready to go back to conventions again, that's when I will read Bedazzled, because it'll really hype me up before I get to go back to conventions. Number 2, Wings of Ebony by J.L. comes out January 26th. This is an urban fantasy set in Houston, heck yes, Texas rep, about a black teen who discovers that she's half god. That just sounds so much fun. So Wings of Ebony I did read. It was not one of my favorites. I do still very much respect it. I really loved the Houston rep. I work with students from Houston, a lot of inner city students from Houston. So it was really nice to be able to sort of see a different perspective on Houston than what I know as an adult white woman who has never lived in Houston. But I didn't engage with the story as much as I wanted to because it's a dual timeline, which I did not know when I put it on my most anticipated list. I have a really hard time with dual timeline narratives. In Wings of Ebony, you basically have both the present, in which our main character comes back to Houston after having already been trained as a god or a part god in this magical land. And then you also have the timeline where she is first sort of going to this magical land and getting sorted and learning about her powers and sort of the corrupt society of the magic system and all of this stuff. So that's what's going on, and I, by themselves, enjoy both narratives, but my attention always wanes in dual timeline with the way that things flip back and forth. That's actually one of the reasons I talked about in this video, which I'm not showing today, but if you go back to watch this video of my 2020 wrap-up and 2021 goals, I talk about the Ancillary Justice series, which is my favorite science fiction series of all time. But of that series, Ancillary Justice by itself was really only like a 4-star. And part of that is because it was a dual timeline. And then Ancillary Sword and Ancillary Mercy, the next 2 books in the series, were total 5 stars. I love the series so much. Most people liked it the most, and it was my least favorite of the series because of that dual timeline. Anyway, I'm just trying to explain why I think that you might like Wings of Ebony, even though I didn't love it as much as I had hoped, because I just know myself, and that's just not a style. Dual timeline is just not a style that my brain works with. And then number 3, Hanny and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating by Adiba Jadigar, which comes out on May 25th, which is another contemporary rom-com. This one's starring 2 Bengali girls who fake date, one of them to prove to her friends that she's bisexual, and the other one in order to get elected as head girl. So, ooh, I love a good fake dating plot, and sapphic fake dating even more so. So I'm very excited about that. And indeed, Hanny and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating was one of my favorite books of the year. It was so cute. I loved the relationship, kind of predictable in the way most YA rom-coms are predictable, but I learned a lot about Bengali culture, and I just really loved Hanny and Issue as people and together as a couple. They were so cute, and I was rooting for them. I really, really liked that one. Number 4, we have Blood Like Magic by AuthorTube's very own Liselle Sambury, and this one comes out on June 15th. This is a science fantasy debut about a witch who enters a genetic matchmaking program to find her true love so she can kill him to save her family's magic, which sounds very delicious. I also loved Blood Like Magic. I gave it also 5 stars. It's a dark fantasy. It was a lot darker than I expected it to be going in, but super captivating, super engaging. I was with it the whole time. I really enjoyed the romance. Didn't love the ending, cliffhangers, but I'm looking forward to the end of the duology coming out this year. So highly excited, recommend. Finally, number 5 on the YA side of things is The Keeper of the Night by Kylie Lee Baker, which doesn't have a cover yet, so I'll just put Kylie's face up there. And this is about a half British, half Japanese soul reaper who leaves the London Grim Reaper Society for the Japanese Shinigami, determined to find acceptance from their goddess of death. So that just sounds like a really fun time, and Kylie is actually one of my agent siblings. We both have the same agent, so I very much want to support her when her debut comes out in October. The Keeper of Night does have a cover now. There it is, obviously since it came out, and it was also one of my favorites of the year. So yes, I loved it. Also a dark fantasy, but I expected this one to be dark, so it didn't take me by surprise as much as Blood Like Magic did, but it was super fast-paced and super engaging. I really loved how fierce our main character is, and I loved all of these sort of conversations and discussions around racism, specifically the sort of conversation around the specific type of racism that biracial people face, and I just really enjoyed The Keeper of Night, and also am mad at the cliffhanger ending and very much looking forward to the next book in the duology coming out this year. And on the most anticipated adult books side of things, the first of those is Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell, which is coming out February 2nd. This is a space opera about two men from rival worlds who are forced into a political marriage and must learn to work together to solve a murder and prevent interplanetary war. More delicious romance tropes, but this time wrapped up in a fun space opera political intrigue adventure, which is just my jam, and I am very, very excited for Winter's Orbit. Once again, another 5-star. My predictions held up pretty well. I loved Winter's Orbit. It was my favorite science fiction of last year and one of the only science fictions I read last year, but regardless, it was really good. Again, loved the relationship, loved the romance, loved the murder mystery, loved the different twists. It was just a really fun, standalone space romance murder mystery, political intrigue thing. It was good. I really enjoyed it. Number 2 is Fireheart Tiger by Aliette de Bodard, and this comes out February 9th. This is another Tor novella, which I'm excited about because I have had just great luck with the Tor novellas so far. This is another complicated sapphic romance, and it is set in a fantasy world based on Vietnamese folklore, so excited about that. I enjoyed Fireheart Tiger, but I didn't love it. I wanted just a little bit more out of it. It has basically 2 sapphic relationships going on, and in a novella, I didn't feel like there was enough time to develop both relationships the way I wanted. So the switch between the 2 was a little too fast for me, which is why it wasn't quite up there in terms of my favorite novellas or a favorite book in general, but it was still very enjoyable, and if you are someone who enjoys the Tor novellas, I would still pick it up. Number 3 is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke, coming out March 23rd. This is another Agent Siblings debut, which, go Agent Siblings 2021, I'm very excited. This one is about a lady mercenary and a princess who have to come together to try to save their kingdom from political turmoil, which is very exciting. And then number 4 is The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, which is coming out on June 8th. Which is another sapphic romance about a captive princess and a maidservant in possession of forbidden magic who, again, have to become allies to save their empire from destruction. So, yeah, we're sensing a theme here, but I love it. And then finally, on number 5, She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan, which is coming out July 20th. Yet another sapphic romance. This one is a gender-bent retelling of the monk who became the founding emperor of the Ming Dynasty in China. Super exciting. Yeah, so I did not read any of those last 3 this year. I own all 3 of them. In fact, She Who Became the Sun is the one physical book that I brought with me because I plan to read it this month, probably while I'm here at my mom's house, which I will talk about here in a minute, my reading plans for this year. But yeah, they're still on my list. I just was trying to read more YA last year, so I read less adult, except that's not really true. I just ended up reading a lot of adult like graphic novels and manhwa, and I didn't read as much of those large sort of adult fantasy books, but I really want to read them, and by waiting a year, it's closer to when their next books in the series come out. So I did not read all 10, but I did read how many of them? I read all but one of the YA and 2 of the adults, so I read 6 out of 10. Not quite a passing score, but you know, it's okay. And of the 6, 4 were favorites. That's pretty good. That's definitely a passing score. So yeah, on the whole, I think I did okay when it came to my reading goals last year. Could have been better, could have been worse. I do have my new reading planner. So I have the reading planner that I use, that I got from Owl Crate, that I used to track all my reading last year. And then I participated in the NaNoWriMo Survival Kit swap this year. That was an AuthorTube mashup collab, and Bailey May gave me this new reading journal in my box, so you can watch that video if you're interested in all the things that I got in my NaNoWriMo Survival Kit swap. But I'm very excited. I think that this journal will be even more suited to the particular way that I like to review books and track all of my ratings. I am almost done with my first book of the year, so I will get this started filling up, and we will see what my stats are by the end of the year. In terms of my reading goals, one of my goals is to read at least half of my most anticipated middle grade YA and adult books. So I linked those videos up in the cards if you are interested. I have 56 most anticipated books of 2022, and I want to read at least half. So half of 56 is 28 books. So at least 28 of the books that I read in 2022, I want to be from my most anticipated list, aka all 2022 releases, which I think would be great. And then I would like to read 50 books. So the rest of that 22 books should come from my shelves or anything else that I want to read, that, you know, some of the 2021 releases that I didn't get the chance to read, or some of the 2020 releases I didn't get the chance to read, or wherever else. They can come from wherever. But 28 of them, I want to be 2022 releases from my most anticipated list. So I'm very excited about that. And hopefully my statistics hold up about my percentage of favorites out of my most anticipated list. And we'll see if, you know, a majority of those 28 are favorites. So my other goal is that I want to have fun with my reading, and also kind of force myself to keep up with my reading, because there were months, if I went through every month in this journal, you would see that there were months where I only read 1 book, and there were months where I read 12. So it's very inconsistent, and I would like to be a little bit more consistent, because the month I read the most books was the last month of the year, because I was trying to catch up on my reading, and I would like to not feel stressed about catching up on my reading next year, because reading's supposed to be fun, right? So I'm going to try to keep a little bit more consistent via various challenges and things. Number 1, I'm part of a book club, an in-person book club, and it's been a little rough the last couple of years because the book club meetings have been virtual, and I haven't been very consistent about going to them or doing them. So this year, my goal is to be more consistent about going to my book club meetings. Unfortunately, I am going to have to miss the first meeting of the year, the January meeting, but the book they are reading for the January meeting, I do still plan to read, which is the Murderbot Diaries, the first novella in the Murderbot Diaries, which is All Systems Red. So I'm gonna read that, and with all of the other books that we choose, it's a science fiction and fantasy book club. We read primarily adult sci-fi and fantasy. So that's 12 books that I should read this year, some of which may overlap with my most anticipated adult books of the year, and some might not, but either way, I'm very excited to read all of my book club picks, or at least most of them. Sometimes they choose one that I'm just really not interested in, but overall, I want to be more consistent about going to book club and reading those books this year. And then the other challenge that I want to do that I'm very excited about is Books and Lala's 2022 Buzzword Challenge. So this used to be a readathon, and now it's a yearly challenge, and basically every month there is a prompt, and you can do it as a readathon in the first week of the month, or you can just do it as a prompt for one book you need to read that month. So the way the buzzword works is that whatever the prompt is should be in the title. So January's W's, that's all the who, what, when, where, why, all of those words. So the book I'm gonna read this month to fulfill that challenge is She Who Became the Sun, because it has the word who in it. So that's gonna get read this month. And then in February, any title with a pronoun in it. I have a bazillion to choose from, so that'll be pretty easy to get done in February. In March, it's any title that has a location in it. In April, it's a title that has size. I think I'm gonna read my Agent Siblings book, Girl Giant and the Monkey King, because I figured giant is a size, right? May, it's directions. So any title that has directions in it, like up, down, south, east, anything like that. That's another kind of hard one, but I have a couple ideas. In June, it's the word all. I will read Lily Ladoff's All for One, because that's one of my most anticipated of the year. In July, it's any book that has a bookish word in the title. I have a couple craft books I might read for that one. August, it's a title that has an item in it, which again, there's so many. So I have lots of choices for that. In September, it's a title that has something related to light or dark. I have a couple different options there. In October, anything with a creature or an animal in the title. Again, so many options. In November, it's a title that has a word that ends in ing. I might do Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor for this one, which is one of my most anticipated middle grade of the year, or Witchlings, which is another most anticipated middle grade of the year. Both of those have ing in the title, so you know, we'll see. And then finally, December, a title with numbers. So I might do One Last Stop, because I still haven't read that one yet. Or some other book that comes up by December. So anyway, I'm doing Books and Lawless Challenge. I'm very excited by my reading wrap up that I do at the end of the year. I will show you guys my chart with all of the ones I read. And, you know, the plan is to have one book each month that fulfills the challenge. And I'm excited. So those are all my reading goals, and I hope you look forward to next year's reading stats video, because I had a lot of fun filming this year's. So definitely be sure to watch it if you haven't yet. Also my most anticipated, because I had a lot of fun filming those. And I don't plan to do a ton of reading related videos on this channel, but just a couple videos at the end of the year / beginning of the year that wrap up my reading and, you know, prepare for my reading of the next year, I think is just a fun thing, because writers should be readers also. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox. There are links in my description to causes that need your support, so please go and check those out. And I look forward to chatting with y'all in the comments.